She said it in Korean. Sharp, clipped, designed to humiliate. The kind of correction meant to land in front of witnesses and stay there. She assumed the black driver wouldn't catch a single syllable, just a woman behind the wheel, invisible in a uniform. She was wrong. Nadia Carter answered without turning around. Calm, precise, in a dialect so exact it silenced the entire back seat. And Kang Min-ho, the man whose name restructured the criminal geography of 3 countries, felt something in his chest split open like fault lines before an earthquake. He had not expected her. He would not forget her. Welcome to Fresh Mafia Romance Stories, besties. Please like, share, and subscribe. Nadia Carter was 29 years old, originally from Houston, Texas, and she had been driving in Seoul for 11 months before the night everything shifted. She was not here by accident. She had followed a contract, a 2-year corporate transportation deal with a private logistics firm that needed bilingual drivers fluent in Korean and English for their executive fleet. Nadia had walked into that interview, set her certificates on the table, and spoken for 4 minutes in flawless Korean without being asked to. She got the job before she left the building. She was built the way Houston builds its women, solid and unhurried. Her skin was the deep, warm brown of November earth, her locks pulled back and pinned under her cap with the precision of someone who understood that presentation was armor. Her eyes were quick and dark and missed nothing. She had a jaw that was made for decisions and a stillness about her that unsettled people who expected noise. She had grown up in a neighborhood where reading the temperature of a room was not a skill. It was a survival requirement. You learned which silences meant danger and which meant patience. You learned to find the exits before you needed them. You cataloged everything automatically, the way lungs process air, without announcing it, without stopping to think about it. She had been assigned vehicle for tonight, a black executive sedan. Corporate pickup, Gangnam District, 9:15. Her job was to collect 2 passengers from the lobby of the Lot World Tower, transport them to a private dinner venue in Itaewon, and wait. That was all. She had confirmed the route twice, identified alternate roads in case of delays, noted the construction diversion on Tehran Row, and located the building's service entrance before her passengers had even stepped outside. She was not there to be noticed. She was not there for anything except the job, the route, and the 11 more months on her contract that would clear the last of her mother's medical debt back in Houston. She had one goal that evening: clean transport. No complications. She had no way of knowing that the complication was already seated in the back of her car, and that the woman beside him was loading a weapon Nadia had not yet seen coming. The Lot World Tower at night does not ask for your attention. It commands it. 83 floors of glass and steel rising out of the city, like a statement that money had decided to make permanent. The lobby was the kind of space designed to make ordinary people feel the precise weight of their ordinariness. Marble floors that reflected everything. Lighting calibrated to flatter the powerful and expose everyone else. Nadia pulled the sedan to the designated bay at 9:12 and cut the engine. She watched the lobby doors through the windshield the way she always watched entry points. Counting, cataloging, waiting. The doors opened at 9:17. She knew which one he was before she saw his face. She knew from the way the lobby reorganized itself around him. The doorman who had been leaning against the wall straightened without being asked. The 2 men who exited first were not guests. Their eyes moved across the drop-off bay with the specific sweep of men paid to identify problems before problems identified them. Then he came through. Kang Min-ho. She did not know his name yet. She only registered what he was. Korean, early 30s, built like someone who had decided stillness was the most efficient form of power. Dark coat, no tie. A face that had been assembled with the kind of precision that felt almost unreasonable. His eyes moved across the exterior in one slow pass, not curious, not admiring, calculating. the way a man surveys a space he already owns but checks out of habit. He did not look at the car. He looked past it, through it, and around it simultaneously. Beside him, a woman in ivory, talking. He was not listening. Nadia unlocked the doors and kept her face forward. They were 3 minutes into the drive when it happened. The woman in ivory had been talking since the lobby. Her Korean was northern elite, each syllable placed with the deliberate precision of someone who had practiced sounding important. She was directing Nadia toward a route that added 12 minutes and ran directly through the Tehran Row construction diversion Nadia had already mapped and avoided. Nadia did not take the route, the woman noticed. She leaned forward, her voice dropping into something slow and cutting, designed to instruct someone she had already decided was beneath instruction. In Korean, sharp and unhurried, she said, "She's going the wrong way. These drivers never know the city. Just smile and nod. It's probably all she understands anyway." She laughed, small and private, tilted toward the man beside her. The back seat went quiet in the particular way of a room waiting for damage to land. Nadia's eyes did not move from the road. Her hands did not shift on the wheel. When she spoke, it was in Korean, the specific measured dialect of Central Seoul, carrying the rhythm of someone who had not learned the language but lived inside it. She said, "The Tehran Row diversion adds 11 minutes and 40 seconds to the route you suggested. I've rerouted through Banpo Bridge. We arrive 4 minutes ahead of your reservation. The kitchen at this venue closes modifications at 10. You're welcome." Silence, not the polite kind. The kind that arrives after something irreversible. In the rearview mirror, Nadia did not look for a reaction. She was already reading the next intersection, but she felt it. The specific quality of attention that shifts in a confined space. Heavy and deliberate and entirely new. Kang Minho had not moved, had not spoken, but his eyes found the rearview mirror and they stayed there. Not the way a man looks at a driver. The way a man looks at something that has just refused to be what he expected. Something moved behind his eyes. Not warmth, not yet. Something older than warmth. The recognition of a thing that does not fit any existing category and therefore requires an entirely new one. He said nothing for the remainder of the drive. When they arrived, he stepped out without looking back. No name offered, no acknowledgement made, but his door closed slower than it should have. Nadia found out who he was at 7:15 the following morning. Her phone rang while she was still in her work uniform, sitting at her kitchen table with cold coffee and a route sheet for the day's pickups. The caller was her fleet supervisor, a compact, perpetually anxious Korean man named Director Lim, who had never once called her before 9 a.m. in 11 months. His voice was not his normal voice. "The passenger from last night," he said without greeting. "The male passenger. Did anything happen in the vehicle? Did you speak to him directly? Did you speak to her?" Nadia set down her coffee. "I corrected a route suggestion. In Korean, silence. The specific kind that precedes bad news being organized into sentences." "Nadia," Director Lim exhaled, "that man is Kang Minho. He is not a corporate client. He is not a business contact. He is the reason this firm has operated without disruption in this district for 4 years. He controls more of this city's infrastructure than the city government is comfortable admitting publicly." A pause. "He has not been in a civilian vehicle driven by an outside contractor in over 3 years. His team called our office this morning. Nadia's kitchen was very quiet. "Are they complaining?" she asked. Another silence, longer this time. "No," Director Lim said carefully. "They are requesting you specifically for his standing transport contract, exclusively." Nadia looked at the window, morning light across the floor. The city outside, indifferent and wide. She said, "I see." Director Lim said, "I don't think you do." The official contract offer arrived by courier at noon, not an email, not a digital form. A sealed envelope, Heavy stock, hand-delivered to the fleet office by a man in a dark jacket who left without signing anything or answering any of Director Lim's questions. Inside, a single page, clean language, specific terms, a standing private transport contract effective immediately covering 6 days a week, with a rate that was not a salary. It was a statement. 3 times her current monthly earnings. A dedicated vehicle. A direct line that bypassed the fleet office entirely. Full discretion clause, mutual and binding. At the bottom, one handwritten line in Korean. The route you chose saved 4 minutes and 40 seconds. Efficiency should be compensated correctly. No signature. Just the number. Nadia sat with the page for a long time. She thought about Director Lim's voice that morning. She thought about the way the lobby had reorganized itself around one man without anyone giving an instruction. She thought about the woman in ivory and the particular way silence had filled the back seat after she answered. She thought about that handwritten line. Not his power that made her consider it. The fact that he had clocked the exact seconds he had paid attention. She accepted the contract before 5. The first week was professional. Precise, exactly what the contract described. Nadia arrived at the designated pickup points 2 minutes early. She confirmed routes without being asked. She drove with the particular quality of silence that communicates competence without performance. She did not make conversation. Neither did he. He worked in the back seat. Phone calls in Korean, clipped and decisive. Occasional exchanges with the 2 men who sometimes rode in the follow vehicle. He never addressed her directly except to confirm destination changes, which he always delivered in the specific measured Korean of someone who had noticed she preferred it to English, and had made a quiet private adjustment. She noticed. She did not acknowledge it. The second week, things arrived. A climate control panel had been installed in Vehicle 4, not requested, not discussed. She found it on Monday morning with a note from the fleet garage that said simply, "Upgrades authorized by client." Tuesday, a charging console appeared in the driver's door pocket, the exact model compatible with her phone. Wednesday, the seat adjustment memory function had been calibrated to her specifications from the previous week's settings without her touching it. Small things, precise things, things that required someone to have paid attention. She should have flagged them through Director Lim. She should have submitted a formal inquiry about unauthorized vehicle modifications. She noted every addition in her logbook. She made no inquiry. On Friday of the second week, she arrived at the vehicle to find a small paper bag on the driver's seat. Inside, a container of roasted barley tea, the specific brand sold only at a small import market in Mapo district. A neighborhood she had mentioned in passing 2 weeks prior during a route-reroute explanation. 1 sentence. She had not expected it to be retained. She sat with the bag in her hands for a moment longer than was necessary. She should have left it. It was a complication. It was the specific kind of gesture that made room for things she had not budgeted for. She put the tea in the cup holder and started the engine. That evening, when she got home, she made a cup. It tasted exactly the way she remembered from the market in Mapo. She stood at her kitchen window drinking it and did not examine what that meant. But she did not throw it away. It was the 3rd week when she said something. She waited until they were stopped at the Hanam Bridge crossing, engine idling, the Han River running dark and wide on both sides. No phone calls in progress. No follow vehicle. Just the 2 of them and the particular quality of silence that had been accumulating weight for days. She did not turn around. She spoke to the windshield in Korean, the same measured tone she used for everything. You modified the vehicle without asking. You left tea from a market I mentioned once in passing. You adjusted the seat memory without being asked how. A pause. I need to understand what that is. The silence that followed had texture. She felt him shift in the back seat. Not physically. The quality of his attention shifted. The way barometric pressure shifts before weather. He said, The modifications improved the vehicle's function. She said the tea had nothing to do with the vehicle's function. A longer silence. His voice when it came was quieter than she had heard it. Something had been removed from it. One carefully maintained layer, gone. No, he said. It did not. She let that sit. Then, I am your driver, Mr. Kang. I want to make sure we are both clear on what that means. He said, I am clear on what it means. A beat. Are you? He added. It was not aggressive. It was not a challenge. It was a question that had been examined before being released, carrying the specific weight of something a man says when he already knows the answer and is waiting to see if you do too. The light changed. She pulled forward. She did not answer him, but her hands on the wheel were not entirely still. For everyone who has ever been the most capable person in the room and still had to prove it twice. For everyone who has learned a language, mastered a skill, built something quietly and completely on their own terms, not to impress anyone, but because excellence was the only version of yourself you were willing to show up as. For everyone who has ever had someone notice the small things, the specific things, the things you mentioned once without expecting to be heard, and felt that land somewhere deeper than you were prepared for. If you know what Nadia was feeling on that bridge, you already understand what was happening, and you already know how dangerous it was. It happened on a Thursday evening in the 4th week. She had dropped Minho at a private meeting venue in Yangsan district and been instructed to wait in the designated bay 2 blocks north. Standard procedure. She had a route sheet for the return journey, a full charge on the vehicle, and 40 minutes to wait. She was reviewing the next day's schedule when she noticed the car. Dark sedan, no plates visible, parked at the far end of the bay facing her direction. It had been there when she arrived. It was still there 22 minutes later. No one had entered or exited. The engine was running. She knew because she could see the exhaust in the cold air. She did not panic. She catalogued. 1 exit north, open. Service alley to the east, width sufficient for the sedan, access to Hangang-dero beyond it. The vehicle behind her was too close for a clean reverse. The sedan at the far end had not moved, but the angle had shifted by approximately 15 degrees. Someone inside had adjusted their position. She was being watched, possibly boxed. She did not reach for her phone immediately. She reached for it after she had already started the engine, confirmed the east alley clearance in her mirrors, and identified the precise moment the far sedan's headlights clicked on. She sent one text to the direct line. Yangsan Bay. Dark sedan, no plates, engine running, 24 minutes stationary. Headlights just activated. I am moving to secondary position. Hangang-dero East service entrance. Come when you can. She released the brake and pulled smoothly into the service alley before the far sedan had fully cleared its parking position. She did not accelerate beyond control. She drove with the focused, unhurried efficiency of someone who had already made every decision and was simply executing them in order. She emerged onto Hangang-dero, pulled to the curb under a street light in a populated block, locked the doors, and waited. Her pulse was elevated. She noted it the way she noted everything, filed it, continued breathing. 4 minutes and 17 seconds later, Minho's follow vehicle came around the corner from the north. He was out of the car before it fully stopped. He crossed to her sedan in 6 steps, pulled open the driver's door, and looked at her with an expression she had not seen on him before. Not cold, not controlled. Something stripped entirely of its management. Are you hurt? Not a question. An inventory. His eyes moved across her face, her hands, her shoulders, checking for damage with a focus so specific it felt like something she had no category for. I'm fine, she said. I identified the threat, cleared the position, and relocated to a populated area before they could close the distance. She paused. I texted you when I was already moving. Something crossed his face, broke through the surface of him the way water breaks through packed earth. He exhaled once, long and controlled, and it was the most unguarded sound she had ever heard from him. He did not move away from the open door. The city moved around them, indifferent and lit, traffic pulling past on Hanggang-dero, pedestrians on the far pavement, the ordinary world continuing its ordinary business. None of it touched the specific gravity of the 2 feet between them. His hand came up slowly, not fast. Note urgent. The way a man moves when he is not certain he is permitted but has reached the limit of not moving. His fingers found the side of her face, not gripping, just placed. The way you place your hand against something you needed to confirm was still real and solid and present. She felt the warmth of it all the way down. Her breath did not catch. She was too controlled for that. But something at the base of her throat tightened and stayed tight. His forehead came forward and touched hers. The contact was quiet and certain and entirely without performance. His eyes closed. She felt his exhale against her skin, slow and long, the kind of breath that has been compressed for weeks and is only now being released because the body has run out of space to hold it. Everything in him that was architecture, calculation, management, all of it was gone. What remained was just a man, frightened by a specific thing, relieved by a specific thing, both of those things her. He said her name, Nadia. Just that. No title, no qualifier. Her name and his voice stripped of everything except the precise truth of what it was carrying. Her hands came up and she pressed them flat against his chest. She felt his heartbeat beneath her palms, fast, steady, completely unguarded. She did not pull away. She closed her eyes and let the moment be exactly what it was. It was 2 days later when she asked him the real question. They were in the safe house he had moved her to after Yangtze. A clean apartment, high floor, the kind of quiet that meant the building had been secured from the outside in. She had spent the first day mapping every exit out of habit. The second day she stopped mapping and started thinking. He came in the evening with food he had not announced and set it on the table without ceremony. He sat across from her. He did not perform ease. He simply occupied the space the way he occupied every space, completely, with the full weight of his attention directed at her. She let him eat for 3 minutes. Then she set down her chopsticks and looked at him directly. "You had my vehicle modified before anyone threatened me," she said. "You sourced tea from a market I mentioned once. You were already moving toward Yangtze before I finished sending that text, which means you had someone on my position before I knew I needed it." She paused. "I need you to tell me what I am to you, because the answer determines everything that happens next." The room went very still. He set down his sea hopsticks. He looked at her with the particular expression of a man who has been asked the one question he has been both dreading and waiting for. The silence stretched long enough that she began to prepare herself. Then something happened to his face, the last layer of it, the final managed surface, the one she had watched him maintain across 4 weeks of proximity and every kind of pressure, came completely undone. He said, "When you corrected that route in the back seat, every person in my life reacts to me from a position of either fear or strategy. You reacted from competence. You did not look in that mirror to see how I received it. You were already reading the next intersection." He stopped. His jaw moved. "I have not encountered that before, not once." She said nothing. He continued, quieter. "I arranged the vehicle because I noticed what you needed before you had to ask. I left the tea because you mentioned that market the way people mention things that matter to them when they are not trying to be noticed. Mattering. I was moving before your text because I realized sitting in that meeting that I had left you stationary and exposed, and the thought of something reaching you before I could was the only thing in that room I could not manage." He paused. "You are not a responsibility, Nadia. A responsibility is something you maintain. You are something I cannot imagine reconstructing my thinking without." The silence between them was full and completely still. She looked at him for a long time. Then she said, "That is a very large thing to say to your driver." Something moved across his face, brief and devastating. The full smile, arriving and departing like weather. "I am aware," he said. She looked at her hands on the table, then back at him. "If this becomes something," she said carefully, "I drive my own routes." He said, "I would expect nothing less." She picked up her chopsticks. He picked up his. And the thing between them, which had never been small, settled into the room like it had always belonged there. The months that followed moved with the particular momentum of things that have been set in motion by someone who does not leave loose ends. Minho's men traced the Yongsan sedan within 72 hours. The source was not a rival organization. It was an internal contractor, a logistics coordinator 3 levels deep in the syndicate's transport network, who had been feeding route information to a competing faction for 11 months. The matter was concluded quietly, completely, and without any record that would surface in any official filing anywhere. Minho restructured his entire transport security protocol from the ground up. New routes, new clearance tiers, new authorization chains that ran through exactly one person before reaching him. He also made one change that was not operational. He resigned his standing contract with the fleet firm, formally, professionally, with 30 days' notice and a settlement figure that made Director Lim sit down before he finished reading it. Then he called Nadia directly and offered her a position that existed outside any fleet structure, any corporate framework, any arrangement that placed another layer of authority between her decisions and her autonomy. The title on the contract was simply Private Transport Director. The rate was not a statement this time. It was an acknowledgement. She signed it the same day. It happened on a Tuesday morning in the 7th month. Not at a restaurant, not with an audience, not with anything that announced itself as significant. She was in the parking garage of his residential building at 6:50 a.m., running the pre-check on the vehicle the way she did every morning. Tire pressure, fluid levels, mirror calibration. She was in her jacket, locks loose because she had not yet pinned them, moving through the checklist with the quiet efficiency that had defined every version of herself she had ever chosen to be. She heard him before she saw him. He came through the garage door carrying 2 containers of coffee, no coat despite the November cold, wearing the particular expression of a man who had made a decision and was simply walking toward it. He held out her coffee first. She took it. She looked at him. She said, "You know the vehicle inspection takes 11 minutes. You always come down at 7:04. "I know," he said. "You're 14 minutes early." "I know." He set his coffee on the hood of the sedan. He reached into the inside pocket of his jacket and produced a small box. He did not open it immediately. He held it for a moment, his eyes on her, steady and completely unguarded. He said, "I had 6 different versions of what I wanted to say prepared." She said, "Which one did you land on?" He said, "None of them." He opened the box. "I decided the route I actually wanted was simpler than the ones I had planned." The ring was not elaborate. A narrow band of dark metal, clean and precise, with a single stone set low, the deep, clear amber of early morning light coming through a car windshield on a highway with no traffic and nowhere to be except forward. She had described that light once. They had been crossing Mapo Bridge at sunrise in the first month of her contract, and she had said quietly, almost to herself, that this was her favorite kind of light, the color of a morning that had not decided anything yet. She had not expected it to be retained. He had remembered. She looked at the ring for a long moment. Then she looked at him. And Nadia Carter, who had driven 11 months through a city that had not been built for her, who had learned its language and mapped its streets and found every exit in every room she had ever entered, who had corrected a route in a backseat and changed everything without trying to change anything, felt something settle in her chest with the specific weight of a thing that has always been true finally being said out loud. She said yes before he finished asking. They married in the spring. Small, deliberate, exactly the shape of the people inside it. His grandmother attended in a deep jade hanbok and took Nadia's hands in both of hers in the courtyard before the ceremony, and said in Korean, slow and clear, that she had watched many people move through her grandson's world. Most of them navigated around him. This one had simply driven forward and trusted her own route. Nadia had looked at the old woman and felt something open in her chest that she did not have a name for yet, but recognized as permanent. Her mother flew in from Houston and declared within 40 minutes of meeting Minho that he was too quiet, too watchful, and clearly completely gone over her daughter, and she approved entirely. The security detail stood at a respectful perimeter. It was the closest that category of professional typically gets to joy. 8 months after the wedding, the family grew. A son born on a Wednesday in February. They named him Yi Carter. 2 worlds folded into 2 syllables, the way people who love each other always leave traces of themselves in what they build together. Minho held him in the hospital room in the early gray morning, the city below still and quiet, and became completely and irreversibly undone. He stood at the window with his son against his chest and his wife watching him from the bed with an expression she had never once managed to keep professional. He turned to look at her. His voice, when it came, was the quietest she had ever heard it. He said, "I did not know a thing could reroute you this completely." She smiled. She had known the moment she corrected a route in a back seat and felt eyes find hers in the rearview mirror and stay. She had known, not consciously, not logically, but in the way the body sometimes knows a destination before the mind has read the map, that this was the beginning of something she was going to spend a very long time being grateful for. She had corrected his route. She had not known it would become hers.